like, you seem to know about alopecia. Do you have alopecia? She said, yes. He needed to see the joy that I felt that day. Like, I didn't feel that kind of joy in 10 years. I was so excited. I was so happy. I contacted her immediately. We started talking, and before you knew it, I was on my way to, then she was in Ogun State. I was on my way to Ogun State from Kaduna. I took a trip to Ogun State just to meet her because, you know, it was relieving for you to see someone or know that there's someone who can relate, you know, to whatever it is you were going through. Because before then, people around me could not understand. There were times I wanted to talk, I wanted to just, you know, explain how I was feeling, but I didn't have people to talk to, because even when I talk, they don't understand. You understand? It was more like a mental thing for me. But when I met her, it was relieving. I felt so much relief because she could relate. Yeah, she understood where I was coming from, and that was how the foundation journey started.
The National Alopecia Areata Foundation states that alopecia affects about 147 million people in the world, and according to Africa Prime News, there are over 100,000 persons living with alopecia in Nigeria.
It has not been easy running the Heroic Alopecia Foundation because, okay, one thing is for people to know what their condition is. Another thing is for them to come out, right? So, like I said, when I met Moshodat, that was when the foundation journey started. Though I'd already started single-handedly before I met her, and then we took the race together, and we continued the race. Then some other members joined, and we grew to about 13 members rather, and in the process, we got to know more. We got to know that alopecia is actually a journey. You get? Some would accept the fact that this is what it is. Some may never accept it. But it's a good thing that you are aware that this is what the problem is, right? And we realize that a lot of people are out there suffering that don't know what this condition is. And they really need to know, because if you know that you have a problem and you know what that problem is, I think your problem is half solved already. So what we do basically is try to reach out to people, try to create awareness. Thanks to BBC Pidgin, I was featured on BBC Pidgin last year, and as a result of that publicity, our member strength grew from 13 to 70. Yeah, so right now we have 70 members. Majority are Nigerians. We have few of them in Ghana, some in Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Senegal, America, London. So we still feel there's a need for us to create more awareness, because if you'd ask for my opinion, I would say only 2% of people in Nigeria are aware of this condition called alopecia. I think a lot has to be done, a lot needs to be done concerning awareness. There was a training I went for recently at Nikkei Art Gallery, and on the first few days of the training, I didn't go with my wig. I didn't wear my wig, and nobody really paid attention to the fact that I don't have hair. I only got comments like, your hairstyle is nice, and because of what I went there for, I didn't have that time to explain to them that it's not a hairstyle but a health condition, until after 5 days I decided to wear my wig. So I went there with a wig, and after a while I started feeling uncomfortable with my wig on, so I removed it. And people were like, it's better. You look better without your wig than with your wig. So another question popped up from someone else, that why the hairstyle? What inspired the hairstyle? And I told them it's not a hairstyle, but it's a health condition. So that got a lot of people's attention, and they're like, oh really, it's a health condition, tell us about it. So while I was talking, I heard whispers of two persons arguing about one Tope somewhere that has a similar condition, and the other person said, no, it's not the same. Tope's case is spiritual. You know, they were arguing in their dialect, in Kaba actually. So I heard and I paused and asked, why did you say Tope's condition is spiritual? He said, because hers is not completely off like mine. She has patches and all. I said, yes, the patch is a form of alopecia actually. Like, there are different types of alopecia. Hers is alopecia areata. That's the medical term for her condition. And they're like, oh, really? I said, yes. So I went as far as explaining to them that there's also a condition called alopecia totalis, where it's just limited to the head alone. You know, the hair loss is limited to the head alone. And I also explained about alopecia universalis, where the victim lose the lashes, the brows, and every other part of the body that has hair. And they were amazed. So when they told me a lot about Tope, I told them I was interested in meeting Tope. But guess what? Tope is dead. Tope died as a result of isolation. Tope died as a result of stigmatization. I also heard of the story of one woman in Benue State that died as a result of stigmatization. She was tagged a witch because her hair stopped growing, and she was isolated, far away from people. You know, they stopped giving her food, and that was how she died. I also heard of some girls in Benin who were constantly tied and flogged with broom because they have alopecia. And at the moment, we have two parents in Kaduna who are representing their sons because they are kids. One is 6 years old, the other one is 7. There's this belief in the north, when strange things happen to you, they just assume you have Anjanu, like a spiritual problem, like evil spirits. I think Anjanu is evil spirits. And they kept burning their scalps with fire, that they are chasing away the Anjanu, until they met me. Someone actually told me about them, and I went to visit the family. So when I got there and I removed my wig, I saw the relief. You know, there was this sigh of relief that, oh, okay, so this thing is not happening to our son alone. There are other people who have this thing, and it's a medical condition. You understand? So a lot needs to be done concerning awareness.
Alopecia can affect anyone regardless of age and gender, and in many cases, it takes a toll on their relationships.
To an extent, alopecia has affected my relationship with people, because I remember back then in school, when it started at first, I didn't start covering it immediately. I still rocked it, and after a while, I started covering it with a scarf. And my friends were surprised, like, when did you start covering your hair? You were not like this, what's the problem? And some of them just tried to be naughty and they pulled the scarf off. And when they realized that there was something strange about my head, some gave space. The naughty ones tagged it a name. Some started calling me an alien. Like when I applied the spray and everything fell off, like I lost every strand of hair on my body. I'm talking about my lashes, my brows, every part of my body. I didn't have hair. I had a friend who was constantly calling me an alien, like to my face, and people would laugh about it. It became embarrassing at some point. And then relationship, yeah, I had a major relationship then that failed as a result of alopecia, because my supposed to-be mother-in-law called off the wedding introduction, 3 days to the wedding introduction, because of fear of the unknown. You know, she didn't want a situation whereby our grandchildren would have hair loss problem, so she called off the wedding introduction, not minding how far we had gone and then the preparation for the event and all that. Then the last disappointment I got to was as a result of alopecia, because I went for a consultation with the person I was dating at that time, and he heard all the medical advice I got about me. Like the dermatologist advised that I should not bother myself, because at this stage, at this point, the hair loss has really it has gotten to an advanced stage where my hair might not grow anymore, you understand? So he heard all of that, and his countenance changed on our way home. So out of curiosity, I tried to question him about his mood and everything, and he said he's scared, doesn't want to raise kids that would not have hair. So to a great extent, alopecia has affected my relationship with people. Alopecia has really affected my family in a lot of ways. Like my mom, right now, she still does not accept the fact that it is a medical condition. She's yet to come to terms with the fact that it's a medical condition. She still feels that there's more to it and the hair would grow. Yes, the hair could grow because alopecia actually has a mind of its own. The way it decides to go off, like the way your hair decides to go off, it could just decide to start growing overnight. That's another mysterious thing about alopecia, because it has to do with your immune system. So your immune system might just decide, okay, I want to be good, I want to be perfect, and then your hair starts growing again, you understand? So it has really affected my family, because I remember when I didn't know what it was, I was constantly being stigmatized, because my mother would always have a scarf or a cap or something beside her, and the moment someone knocks at the door, she's throwing it at me to cover my head. I didn't like that part. I didn't like the fact that I could not just be myself, you know, and feel free like every other person. I didn't like the fact that I have to always cover my head, you know. And another thing is, it became a prayer request. Like till now, it's still a prayer request. Everyone is always praying at some point, at one point or the other, for my hair to grow back. Yeah, so it has really affected my family, not just me.
1 in 20 people with alopecia also has a family member who has experienced the condition, which implies that most people that have alopecia usually don't have family members with this condition.
I'm not too sure that the awareness is really there. Having said so, I mean, if we think about the patients who come into the clinic, alopecia is, at least one, I would say some studies have shown that is one of the top 10 dermatology consultations. And because the world is generally getting more visual, everybody's more concerned about appearance, and we talk about quality of life and all this. So you're seeing a lot more patients.
Very good morning, and thanks for joining us on the breakfast this morning. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Today is the last but one day to the end of February, and we thank God that we have made it this far. No matter what it is, there's so much you should thank God for. Forget about the fuel price, forget about the food shortages, forget about the salaries, everything. Just think about the fact that you are alive and you made it till today. You have every reason to be thankful. Today on the show, we'll be looking at mental health services, addressing the challenges, especially here in Nigeria. And we are also going to address the Lagos Assembly crisis. We cannot get too much of it. Miranda may step down as a Conde panel shortlists 7 That is the news making the rounds now. We are going to have a member of the Youth Parliament, a National Youth Parliament, talk to us today, who is also very close to where decisions are being made. We are also going to be looking at the top trending issues for today, and then we'll go to the press to see what is available, what made it to the front pages of some of our national dailies. In the meantime, we'll take a short break and take the quote for the day. Our quote for today is from Aristotle Onassis, and it says, "The secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows." The secret of business is to know something that nobody else knows. It may not necessarily be that nobody else knows that thing, but it is you should know the strategy to bring that thing to the people who, whether they know it or not, are not applying it, are not doing anything about it. That's the secret of business. They say if you want to do business, you have to first of all identify a need. So if you identify a need, let us just assume that you are the only one who has been able to identify that need. And when you begin to work towards it, people will now come to you, people will now rush to you, people will now patronize you because you are fulfilling a need. So people may know it, but if the action is not taken to fulfill that need, then you who are taking the action are the only one who we can say really knows it. Because if you know it, you will know the importance, and if you know the importance, you will bring it to bear. And if you bring it, then people will come to make sure they satisfy a need which you are feeling. So to be able to do business and succeed, you have to be someone who will know something that others do not. Invent something, fulfill a need that others are not doing, look for a way to fulfill a need that even others are also doing, and that is the key to business. So that's the secret. If you want to go into business, know this secret and you will succeed. We'll go straight forward to the top trending issues for this morning, and the court's top trending issues will begin with the fact that the court rejects request to stop corruption trial against Emefiele. The Special Offences Court in Lagos has dismissed the request to halt the corruption trial of former Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. Justice Rahman Oshodi, in a ruling on Wednesday, rejected allegations of judicial bias against him, stating they were unsubstantiated. The judge referred a 2013 decision by Chief Justice of Nigeria stating that judicial bias must be personal or based on extrajudicial reasons to justify disqualification. Emefiele's legal team, led by Olalekan Ojo, had argued for the judge's recusal, claiming bias due to a ruling allowing the prosecution to ask a leading question which the defense had objected to. However, the prosecution, represented by Rotimi Oyedepo, opposed the motion, calling it without merit. In addition to rejecting the recusal request, Justice Oshodi granted Emefiele permission to appeal the court's jurisdictional decision from January 8. The trial will continue on May 26. I do wish that this case will be done with and we find conviction or the freedom of the former CBN governor. If he's guilty of anything, he goes for it. If he's not guilty of some of these things, then they free him of those ones and let us see the end to it. The judicial system has been burdened with a lot of things that make it so so difficult to get convictions, so difficult to end cases and all that. This one, in the case of Emefiele, was the accusation that he was biased. And we've seen this a lot of times where lawyers look for things that will make the case go on and on and on and on. I don't know if it's because of the money they make out of it, or it's because they know that the longer the case gets, the less importance we attach to it, especially in Nigeria, that we are quick to forget our history. So I don't know why they keep doing this. There will be an injunction here, injunction there, one complaint from here and there, and a case that should end in a month or 6 months will be taking years upon years. I don't know if the strategy is to make sure that the case stays on until someone else, another Pharaoh that knows Joseph, comes on seat, so that everything will just go away, because it has happened before that someone who knows you just comes and then your case is dismissed and nobody hears about it anymore. Maybe this is the thing that is going on. But Emefiele is facing a lot of things, and what really comes to me whenever I hear the case of Emefiele is the fact that at some point in this life he was like the be-all in Nigeria, whether in politics or in the financial sector or in the life of our economy. The CBN governor was the be-all. So everybody was in awe of him. Everybody was afraid of him. The decisions he made shaped Nigeria, whether for the better or for the worse. I do not know. I'm not a financial person that would know that his decisions were bad. Some of them were decisions that we applauded. We thought that it was going to help us in a lot of ways. But people who knew better said that they were just witch hunting some people. We saw, well, let me not mention some of them. Right today, he's facing his travails because of decisions he made as the CBN governor. How that will pan out, we do not know. But I'm glad that the progress is there. We're seeing progress, and in fact, I'm also glad that the judge is standing his grounds and saying that, okay, there must be XYZ conditions that can make me recuse myself, because as far as a lot of people are concerned, that's just a delay strategy and all that. So that the judge and the justice system is standing firm and making sure progress is in this case is a good thing on its own. But we wish the judiciary the will, the courage to do the needful and convict the people, not just Emefiele, convict the people who are guilty of any crime or any wrongdoing, and then free those who are innocent or do not need the kind of suffering that they are suffering right now. So we can even digress to the fact that our prisons are full of people who needlessly are languishing in jail. Some of them are awaiting trial, some of them may not be innocent, but the crime is not such a crime that they will spend as many years as they are spending right now in the Nigerian correctional facilities, and it is something that is very worrisome. The federal government keeps spending money on the people that could have been generating money for the government or to make our economy better. So something should be done about it. The justice system, the correctional facilities should be a place of reform for people, but sometimes because of what they meet in that place, they come out as worse people than when they went in there. And I don't know how we can begin, where we can begin to make sure that this stops happening. Monitoring is a key thing when we're talking about making things right. Monitoring is a key thing, and then punishment or reward for wrongdoing or good deeds, respectively, will also be another one. For now, we're looking at Emefiele. He's facing the music for what he did. Whether he was right or wrong, let the judicial system decide, and decide fast, not just for him, but for everybody else. Now, the U.S. Consulate General in Lagos has partnered with the Field of Skills and Dreams VTE Academy to launch the Emerging Technicians Conference. This initiative aims to provide young Nigerian technicians with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in their trades and build sustainable businesses. The conference, which includes a 6-month mentorship program, focuses on entrepreneurship, technical training, and innovation. Joellen Gorge, the acting U.S. Consul General, emphasized the importance of technical training for fostering economic resilience and creating job opportunities. She stated that supporting technicians and artisans would not only boost economic growth, but also help expand opportunities for the youth in Nigeria. The program offers practical resources, industry connections, and training in various fields such as plumbing, electrical work, and web development. Participants will gain insights into business management, branding, customer services, and accounting to help scale their businesses. Industry experts include Cynthia Guaro from the U.S. Consulate and Dr. Christina Okenla from Equinix, West Africa. They've shared valuable expertise to guide the technicians. As they continue their mentorship, the initiative aims to contribute to Nigeria's long-term economic development. The role of technology and everything else cannot be overemphasized. The role of training and retraining cannot be overemphasized. Even if you are an expert in your field, it doesn't mean that you cannot be retrained. So whatever is being said about this is very important. Sometimes, though, I just wonder, when every time they talk about empowering the youths, in a country like Nigeria, where a lot of people are late bloomers, what is done? Why is much talk not also done about people who may not necessarily be youths? And this is making a lot of people to redeclare their ages so that they can get some benefits to do one or two things. What about the middle age? What about the aged? Are there trainings that can help them to become something else? Some of them, they don't want to retire because after retiring, they don't know anything else to do. And it is idleness that kills a man, not work. Work, you may be tired every now and then, but you stop working and you're idle. That is what really kills you. After 35 years, your body is used to a particular kind of thing. After so many years, your most productive years is used to a particular thing, and then you just go home and sit idle. You have nothing to do. So training sessions, empowerment sessions, and all that should also be thought of for the people who are not necessarily youth, so that we don't need to redeclare our ages. We who are past the middle age don't need to redeclare our ages, but we're still useful in the society. Some of these people are the ones that their children will even look up to and say, okay, my father could do this, my mother could do this, so let me also follow in this footsteps. So it's never too late to train someone, hoping that that person can still contribute. It's not good enough to just write them off, a particular demographic, write them off and say, okay, you're old already, so let's look at the youth. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. Empower the youths, teach them skills, and do all the needful because they're still powerful enough to do what they need to do to contribute to the growth of our nation. But we also have these other groups of people who need these trainings as well, because they might transit from one phase of their life to the other one, and they need also an empowerment that can make them continue to live on and contribute. Because even if they cannot do anything else, they can advise people who are coming up, and then they need to live long to do this. And by living long, it means that you have to be active enough to stay healthy and to stay active and to also contribute. So while I am applauding this initiative, I'm also appealing for another demographic that might also need these things. Sometimes you talk about agriculture, you want to empower people, and you talk about youths. Some of these youths don't even have farms. We are just trying to encourage them. Some of the people who may not be in that demographic may be the ones that will actually put that knowledge to use and then use it to train the youths that you're trying to empower that do not even want to hear about it and all that. So I'm also making a case for another group of people in Nigeria. You find that funny, but it's the truth. Idleness kills. So you need to empower the youths because they have the strength to do what they need to do. You need to also empower those who are not necessarily youths because they also need that requisite knowledge to take care of their families, to take care of themselves, to also contribute. Now, rules of the House not gender-based, says Shuaibu. A former Edo State Deputy Governor, Philip Shuaibu, shared that Natasha is his friend, while Senator Akpabio, the Senate President, is his political leader. He emphasized that the allocation of offices and seats in the National Assembly is guided by the House rules. According to him, lobbying is a part of the process where members can influence their office locations and seating arrangements. Drawing from his experience as a two-term member of the Edo State House of Assembly, Shuaibu explained that when he arrived in Abuja, he quickly lobbied for the best office spaces and seating arrangements. He mentioned that the first-time members may not be aware of this process, which is why they may face challenges in securing favorable positions. Shuaibu clarified that the allocation of offices and seats is not related to gender but to adherence to House rules. He believes there may have been some miscommunication about the matter and urged everyone to follow established procedures regardless of whether they are men or women. Well, agreement is agreement, like we say in Nigeria. If it has been decided by the House that this and that should be the way to go, well, fine. But the points that Natasha raised were also valid. She said, or she claimed, that they placed her in a place that she could just disappear into insignificance, because the sitting arrangement also matters. You have to pan and pan and pan before you can find her. If she raises a hand, it is sometimes near impossible to be recognized from where she's sitting. And so many other things that pointed to the fact that there are instruments, there may be instruments, there may be very subtle instruments in the House that will gag the people who are in opposition. And maybe that's the reason why a lot of people want to cross carpet to another political party that's in power so that they can enjoy some of these things. Like Shuaibu has said, lobbying is part of it. If seating arrangement as well should be lobbied for, and then positions that you hold in the House are lobbied for, there are some people who do not have that skill of lobbying. They just want to sit and earn what they really deserve. Because if you are a senator, there are some things that you should just earn by being a senator, and not necessarily because you have the power to deceive some people or to coerce some people or blackmail some people, because all these are part of the lobbying process, to bribe some people and all that. There are things that should be earned just because you are a senator or a House of Reps member or an assembly member in your state. I think so. I don't know what made them to say you have to lobby for where you are going to sit, you have to lobby to be part of a committee, you have to lobby to do X, Y, Z. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they had a good reason, but I think there are things that you should just have as a right because you are a senator. So if the concerns of Natasha are anything to go by, then there must be a form of muzzling the people who are in the opposition, not to be seen, not to be significant enough and all that. And that is something really worrisome. So if you are in the minority, you may not have a voice. If you are not having the skill to lobby, to bribe your way, to intimidate your way, to clear your way in any way possible, then you may not have anything. And the only hope that you have is to align with the crowd. And that is not good for democracy. I know that lobbying should be a skill that every politician should have, everybody should have, but there are some people who, even if they have to lobby for their life, they may not be able to do that. I'm just saying, this is life. So let the people who are in the Senate have certain rights that they don't need to beg for. Let the people in the National Assembly not have to at least beg for a place to sit that they can be recognized. If the entire chamber is full, it's a different thing. That there are no extra seats that will be conspicuous enough to the Senate President or whoever is in charge of recognizing whoever speaks or does anything, then it should just go without saying that everybody should be in a seat that is conspicuous enough. I don't know. I don't know the standing rules and why they made those rules, but even if Natasha has to be punished for the outburst, the points that she made that made her to have that outburst should be investigated and some corrections to be made. If you are a lone voice in the National Assembly, you should not be made to move from your position because of deprivation because they are being deprived of a lot of things. She said in one of the interviews that I read about, I think she was responding to a call from the People's Parliament or something, a radio station that claims to be for human rights. And she said that there are so many trainings that are done outside the country. And because she is where she is, she belongs to the group she belongs to, her name is always struck out, no matter how qualified she is of that. So that the seat arrangement and all that was just the last straw that broke the camel's back. So if things like that are happening, then you understand now why people will be moving from other parties to the ruling party all the time, or the party with the greatest number and all that. And it's not good for our democracy. We should have dissenting voices in some cases. You agree to disagree. That's what we say. So nobody should ever be made to be insignificant just because you do not belong to a particular party, or you cannot, or you do not have the ability to lobby. And by lobbying in Nigeria, you know the rest. So it's just a plea to the National Assembly, whatever your standing rules are, let there be some kind, especially now that you're even talking about in the House of Representatives, someone has brought a bill that people should, that people should, the National Assembly should allocate special seats for women. Just for being women, they should have that right to have those special seats and all that. That's a matter for another day. But if someone is proposing this, it means that just being a particular gender should give you some rights. And so just being a Senate member or a House of Representatives member should give you certain rights that you don't need to lobby for. So do something about that so that nobody else has to cry, so that no party will have to lose their member just because these members feel marginalized because they belong to parties that are not powerful enough in the National Assembly. That's just a plea I'm making. But whatever your standing rules are, we respect them and tender justice with mercy. Okay, so we'll take a final one. NAFDAC's DG raises alarm over life threats. The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, has expressed concern over the increasing threats to her life and the safety of the agency staff. This comes as NAFDAC officials continue their efforts to combat the trade of fake and substandard drugs across Nigeria. Adeyeye urged authorities to enhance security for her team, highlighting the dangers they face in carrying out their duties. In a recent statement, Adeyeye revealed the personal toll of the job, noting that NAFDAC staff had been directly targeted for their anti-counterfeit work. She shared a distressing example where a staff member's child was kidnapped due to the officials' refusal to engage in corrupt activities. Fortunately, the child escaped. The agency's recent crackdown led to the seizure of 87 truckloads of fake medical products worth over 1 trillion naira. Despite the growing threats, Adeyeye emphasized NAFDAC's commitment to eradicating counterfeit drugs. She stressed the need for a death penalty for those involved in the counterfeit drug trade, calling them merchants of death. Adeyeye also revealed that due to the constant threats, she now requires round-the-clock police protection. This is so understandable, and I think her call for more security for her and her team is a very, very valid one and should be looked into. These are the people that need to really be protected by the police, not just any random person with a few million naira in his bank account that moves around with police escort all the time, leaving the ordinary humans like us to be less safe than we should be. We have a Nigerian police force that is short-staffed, so to speak, and then we're using almost half of this for protection of the VIPs, and then the rest of us are just prone to kidnaps and all that. NAFDAC is doing a job that we know is very, very dangerous. We know how it is to fight drug cartels, even outside this country. Go to Colombia, go to Mexico, go to any other place where we hear about drug cartels. We know what the government faces, what security faces. Some of these people are even the ones who have bought over everyone in that place, and they rule over the people because the money is there. Illicit money, no, nonetheless, but it's still there. It's still money. And so they're so dangerous, you cross their path and you're gone. So security should be beefed up around these people, and that is what we think should really be done. Okay, so we like to congratulate the NAFDAC boss and the entire team, and we hope that you continue your work and doing it as best you can. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we'll be looking at the papers to see what the fresh headlines are today. Stay with us.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
You're in a queue, for example, and you go to some places.
Us to discuss these headlines is Mr. Tunde Kolawole. Mr. Kolawole is a legal practitioner here in Lagos. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And good morning to all our listeners from here.
Yeah, good morning to you. Okay, we're starting this morning with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper leads with APC accounts, or the election cases, APC accounts seized over 8.9 billion naira debts, says Ganduje. That's the first headline we're seeing there. He said that he inherited a lot of debts when he came into office, more like the governors say. I don't know what the party was using money for, that they borrowed money up to 8.9 billion naira, so he came and inherited debt. So that's what he is saying. I'd like you to comment on that first.
Well, it's rather unfortunate it means that what is happening in the party is what they have taken to management of the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian society. If you as a party cannot manage the funds, the resources of your party, how are you expected to be able to manage the resources of the nation and deliver the dividend of democracy to the Nigerian people? Well, I suspect that some of these debts may have been coming from campaign activities. I also suspect that some of them may have come from litigation. Usually the parties have a lot of cases in court and they have to pay lawyers to be able to do those cases. And of course, too, when they travel, they incur expenses on hotel accommodation, transportation, and of course, too, they also have to pay the staff who work for them at different levels of the country. Too many times, too, you find out that party officials and those who should ordinarily be putting money to the account of the party to run the party, they hardly do it. I remember that during the Second Republic, especially with the Unity Party of Nigeria, all party officials, all party men and women who are holding political offices are expected to pay a certain percentage, I think about 10 or 20% of whatever they earn as salaries and emoluments into the coffers of the party for the purposes of running the party. Of course, too, individuals like businessmen who want favors or lobby the party also donate money to the account of the party. I wouldn't know what is happening presently. If the party officials, if the political office holders of the party are not remitting a certain percentage of whatever they earn into the coffers of the party, where will they get money to run the parties? It is usually done in elections that businessmen donate money into the coffers of the party, believing that whoever wins, they may be able to get some favors and patronages from such a person. So, this is not a fanatical story at all. As a party that is in power is unable to balance its budget, it's only a deficit, it has incurred a debt running to billions of naira. Because it could be said, it is what they do at the party level, it is the debt that they have plunged their parties into, that they have also decided to plunge the country into as a nation. So they must find a way to balance their budget. The sooner the better.
I think it's worrisome. That's what I would call it. A headline down here, still on the Punch, said, U.S. aid donated drugs found in Lagos Abia markets. That's according to NAFDAC. Remember that there's been a clampdown on activities of some drug dealers in Abia State and some other markets, and they have been closed down and all that. And then now NAFDAC is saying that those drugs were donated by U.S. aid.
Well, this shouldn't surprise you. At the peak of hunger in this country, when people were hungry and people were demonstrating and agitating and saying that they were hungry, that government should come to their aid, we find that some of these politicians, some civil servants, and highly placed people, often food aids as ordinarily rice, beans, gari, and other household items that they've been given, they have been asked to distribute to the people. We find they were housing some of them in the different warehouses to use it for campaigns when the next elections will come. So if we are finding this in the area of drugs, it shouldn't surprise us. Too many times you go to the hospital, especially the public hospital, you'll be told that certain drugs are not available, especially drugs like for the treatment of things like acquired immune deficiency syndrome, that is AIDS, and then for also things like diabetes, obesity, and others, which you said, and some of these foreign donors usually invest on. So when you go to some of these hospitals, you'll be told that they are not available, either that they have been ordered or that they have been diverted to certain places where they be sold to the public. You also find out some of our businessmen, pharmacists, who sometimes be unconscionable. They go for such drugs, buy them at very, very cheap rates, and sell them at the premium prices to those who may need the drug. Honestly, this is very embarrassing. And these the people who make these drugs, like America and Donald Trump, who are clamping down in this area against to hear about things like this, then they would have been given justification to stop the USAID from doing the programs and charities that they do in Africa. I would think that diverting this kind of drugs and essentials to the market for the purposes of selling them and others is a criminal offense which a NAFDAC to invite the police and the DSS to investigate. And whoever may be found culpable will be prosecuted in a competent court for appropriate punishment to be dished out to such person. It is a sabotage. In fact, it could be decided to be treasonable that when certain people, when the American people, when the British people and some other countries of the world take money from their taxpayers and use it to buy drugs, to be given to save the life of your people. And certain persons will now try about all drugs and begin to sell them in the open market or in the market. It's really sad, very, very sad.
Okay. Well, God will help us. Now, concerns as Forex reserves drop $2.3 billion amid Naira gains. On the one hand, Naira gains, and then our Forex reserve drops. It's like we don't even know what we should do. If the Naira gains and then we're losing in the Forex reserves, I don't know if it is a good thing for us or a bad thing for us.
Well, about a week ago or thereabouts, or was it this week, I read where the accountant, Mr. Rewane, was saying that the Central Bank of Nigeria had used about $20 billion or thereabouts to really stabilize the Naira and what have you. So, the gains that we see the Naira making may not be on the strength of economic activities or on the improvement in the valuation of the Naira in the market. It could be because of the money that the CBN was said to be using to defend the Naira, to sort the value of the Naira. So we shouldn't be carried away that the Naira is appreciating in the market. As to the fall in the Forex holding of the country of the CBN and what have you, that should also not surprise us. What economic activities do you see going on in this country today? What is Nigeria exporting to be able to earn hard currency or foreign exchange so that the foreign exchange holding of the CBN will go up or will continue to push? In my humble opinion, besides petroleum products, crude petroleum products, I'm not aware that this country is presently active in the export of any meaningful goods and the services. So if you are not exporting, how will you earn hard currency? And remember too, the crude oil on which the earning of Forex is lies or is based and all that, is not being used or is not being given to the local refineries to be able to produce so that we could have fuel supply in the country. The implication of that is that you may not be exporting as much crude oil as you used to export if you are now giving part of it to the local refineries to be able to produce. So it's a very vicious cycle, which we need to break away from. And the way to break away from it, in my humble opinion and suggestion, is to diversify the economy so that we don't rely solely on petroleum products again for the earnings of this country. I was watching TV last week too, and it was reported in one of the foreign TV that about 34 million people visited Japan in 2024. If 34 million people visit a country, that means that country must be earning a lot of very good money and currency. Through tourism. What is this country doing about tourism? Nothing in my humble opinion. What are we doing in the area of sport? Nothing in my humble opinion. Everything is about politics, and politics. 99% or, okay, let's say 90% of our time and resources is dissipated on political activities. The productive base of the society, the economy, which is expected to sustain the politics, we are not paying attention to it. So, the government of today needs to find ways and means to diversify the economy. They also would have to look at the massive public expenditure that they are making. Coastal roads, train activities, train activities in different cities and whatever. When the economy of a nation is in trouble, when inflation is very, very high, that's when you cut down on public expenditure so that you can rein in inflation and also solve whatever reserve that you have.
Okay, there is a headline that is everywhere. All the newspapers that we're reviewing today, we have that headline. It's on Business Day as well. Dangote Refinery cuts petrol price again, now $8.25. And we had the breakdown in the Tribune. If it's $8.25 in the refinery when they go and buy, the petrol stations will now be selling. In Lagos State, they will be selling for $8.60. The rest of Southwest states will be selling at $8.70. I think up north, they will be selling at $8.80, while South and Southeast will be selling at $8.90. That is how it's going to be. So I'd like your comment. Some people are feeling the bite of this reduction of price from Dangote Refinery, especially those who are importing this fuel. And while we are saying, okay, it's good for Nigeria, some people are also afraid that this may be the beginning of the fight for monopoly, which Dangote is known for. It keeps making sure that people who are trying to bring from outside are taken out of business, and then he can set the prices the way he likes. But I'd like to hear your opinion on the reduction of price yet again after a few weeks or a few months after the last one.
Well, you have said it all. If the reduction of Dangote petroleum product prices is based on reduction of cost of production and efficiency of production, then it is a welcome development. It is something that we should applaud. But if it is not based on reduction in cost of production and then improvement in efficiency of production, but geared towards creating a monopoly, then it is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous for the economy in so many respects. In the sense that after the monopoly would have been created, then Dangote Refinery will begin to dictate whatever prices it wants to sell these products. Because at the end of the day, it would have driven out from the market other competitors. Also remember that certain people are also building refineries. In fact, Mr. Elumelu of UPA is said to be proposing to build his own. We know that BUA is also building. And we are also aware there are some other modular refineries in the Niger Delta. So if this incessant reduction in price is geared towards creating a monopoly and driving out other people from building refineries and then making the sector very, very competitive, then it is dangerous. And this is where the Consumer Protection Agency and other regulatory agencies will require to come in and ask the Dangote refinery to open up its books for the purposes of scrutiny to make sure that what they are doing is fair competition and that it's not geared towards creating a monopoly. Because in the past, these organizations have been accused of trying to create a monopoly and a cartel in the area of sugar importation and distribution. If that is the background, therefore, then the regulatory agencies they need to show interest in the activities of the Dangote refinery. And this is important too because I am personally not aware that the price of petroleum products in the international market has kind of come down. If it is here at the level in which it is, petroleum products around the world is dollar denominated, then we require to be inquisitive as regards how Dangote is able to reduce the prices of its products the way it has been doing in the last few months.
Okay. Now, on tax laws, the Business NG says Customs CG warns proposed revenue bill threatens agency's survival. Let's tie that with what we find on Daily Trust. On Daily Trust, they say tax reform, Sharia Council, FCT Imams Yadudu reject inheritance law, VAT hike. Now, this all only tells us that pockets of Nigerians or Nigerian institutions are rejecting parts of the bills. Okay, so you might agree to some and you might not agree to others. If all Nigerians begin to find faults in some aspects that do not favor them, at what point are we going to come to the realization that no law can satisfy everybody equally? And where do we draw the line to say, you know what, whether this group is saying they're marginalized or this and that, for the greater good of our country, this will have to go? At what point will we get there? We're talking about consultations. We're talking about public hearing now. If the Sharia comes, the other day they said that any law, any aspect of the law that goes against the Sharia should be removed. Goes against the Sharia should be removed. You know, so if every part of our national life, every part will come and say, okay, this one is not favorable to us, we have to remove it. At what point will we get to the realization that we cannot continue like this and do the needful?
Well, let me quickly say that all over the world, issues related to tax and taxation is always a very contentious matter. All over the world, nobody or many people would not like to pay taxes, whether they be businessmen, ordinary workers, whose income are expected to be taxed. So, the contention that we are seeing in Nigeria today is not strange. Everybody is merely trying to protect their personal interests. Secondly, I would like to say that when you look at the tax reform that is being proposed by the federal government, the bottom line in there is that the personal income that is going to be further taxed through some of these tax reforms. When you look at the VAT hike, is it not when people use whatever money they earn as salaries and emoluments to go to the market to buy things that they pay tax? This is after they have paid their personal income tax, which is deducted upfront from their salaries and allowance. And then when the telecom service providers hike their fees and all that, is it not the same income that people earn that they will use to meet their obligations in that area and all that? So this tax reform, simply speaking, when you look at it, is not based on getting more taxes from production activities, especially goods, especially services. It boils down to the fact that people will have to pay more taxes from whatever income that they earn as individuals. With regard to the Muslim community, honestly speaking, I think they have a case, just like I said, VAT will equally affect their personal income. And then the area of Sharia that they are raising, you should remember that even the Constitution recognizes that the Muslims in this country can subject their life, their marriages, and other personal activities to the dictates of the Sharia. So when you talk about inheritance tax, in a way, it would affect what is being done presently with the Sharia as it affects inheritances. Most Muslims, when they die, even if they don't write a will, their estate is administered based on the principles of Islamic law, based on Sharia. So when you now say that people will have to pay taxes based on whatever they inherit from whatever sources, strictly speaking, that will encroach on the practice of Islamic law as it affects inheritance in this country. It will also affect the income that people who ordinarily would earn and all that. I have also read where the Muslim community raised the issue as regards certain words that are used in those, the tax reform, proposed tax reform law. They have asked that instead of economical whatever, I can't remember the exact word now, such words should be replaced with religion, because the word that is used in the proposed tax reform bill is synonymous with Christianity. And you and I will know it is not only Christians that live in this country. It is not only Christians that would have to pay taxes. The traditional religious people, the Muslims, and what have you, even the atheists also pay tax. So, whatever grievances anybody may have, let's encourage them to table it at this public hearing. Thank God we have highly learned people in the National Assembly who will be able to sift through the grain and the chaff and come up with a new tax bill or law that will be acceptable to the entire Nigerian people. And if they come up with what is not acceptable, of course, individuals, communities, societies, religious bodies that feel aggrieved can take the matter to the court, and then the court will make a decision as regards what is expected to be done. I would finally like to say that I'm also not comfortable with the tax reform bill. Like I said, it is the people's personal, or this is personal income that is going to be further taxed with this tax reform bill if it is eventually passed into law. Most of the proposal there is not based on productive activities. It's not based on the fact that we're expected to produce more petroleum products, more solid minerals, more, producing more vehicles, Dangote producing more trucks, farmers producing more rice, and then we breeding more cattle to be sold and taxed in the market. Most of it rests on personnel income tax, which in my humble opinion will further erode the purchasing power of the people. And I say this, if anybody lives below the poverty line in this country, they ought not to be taxed. Taxation should be based on whether what people earn is able to carry them home, is able to sustain them above the poverty line, above the poverty level in the society. A man who earns 80,000 naira, which is the basic income in the country today, what tax are you asking him to pay? If he has to pay house rent, he has to pay school fees, if he has to pay 1,000 naira to travel in a train from Agado to Ido or Yeku in Lagos, if he has to go to work 25 times in a month, times 1,000 naira, that is already 25,000 naira going to transportation. What about house rent? What about school fees? What about feeding? So these are very fundamental issues. That when you ask people to pay more personal income tax, what you're asking them to do is to pay with their blood. Or what you're indirectly doing is to skin them and drain their blood for the purposes of paying tax.
Well, political vampires, government vampires and all that. Let's not drain the people's blood. But this is where we will wrap up, Mr. Kolawole, this morning. It's, like always, a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. You have a lovely day.
You too. We've been talking to Mr. Tunde Kolawole, a legal practitioner here. We were trying to look at some of the headlines that made it to the front pages of some of our national dailies this morning. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll go to our first hot topic. Stay with us.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Thanks for staying with us. We now go to our first hot topic, which is really hot. Mental health services, that's what we're addressing today, addressing the challenges. EHA clinics and Blue Room Care have teamed up to address the mental health needs of individuals by integrating mental health services into existing healthcare clinics. Abdul Karim Yamu, Vice President of Business Development at EHA Clinics, emphasized the importance of providing a full spectrum of care that includes both physical and mental health. This partnership aims to create a seamless healthcare experience for individuals seeking support in both areas. Evelyn Castle, CEO of EHA Impact Ventures, spoke about the significance of this initiative, highlighting the potential to expand the integrated care model across Africa. By combining Blue Room Care's mental health expertise with the clinical infrastructure of EHA clinics, the partnership aims to enhance access to mental health services throughout the continent, ensuring more people can access the care they need. To improve community engagement and service delivery, the partnership will introduce coordinated booking system and outreach initiatives in Lagos. These efforts are part of a broader goal to increase access to mental health support in the region, helping individuals who may be struggling to access care that they deserve. Our guest this morning is Olakunbi Oyedele, Executive Director, Living Vines Mental Health Foundation. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We cannot overemphasize the importance of mental health care, and we would like to just walk us through how important it is, especially in Lagos State.
Well, thank you so much for having me. The need for mental health is very, very critical. Like you said, I'm very glad, first of all, for the innovation and the platform, the merger. So I'm very glad for that. But mental health is very critical. We see that every day with the number of people that we're servicing in our organization. We see that there's a cause of not just the economic climate, which has also increased the mental health challenges. We see that with kids at school. We see that in people having the suicide risk has actually gone high. We see that mostly on the news, where we see that a lot of people, people are actually attempting suicide. But with that also comes, want to applaud that there have been a lot of rise, and there's been a lot of talk about mental health, and now the need now. So people are understanding the need for mental health services. So I want to applaud, the government, and also people, private organizations coming together to say, okay, this is a big challenge, and we're hoping to come together to fight it. So there's been a shift in the awareness of mental health services, the need for mental health care in Nigeria.
Okay. Now, this measure, what do you think will be the outcome? How much better do you think mental health care will be with this measure and measures of this kind that may come up in the future?
I think that this will actually be great, right? Because we actually need in-person. The virtual is good, but the ability to have a in-person clinic where people can come in to receive services would definitely provide access to people to come in and provide services. But I hope that this partnership doesn't just center on just private individuals that can, pay for mental health services, because there are a lot of people that are underserved that need mental health services, and they are currently, and they also need it. So we need to figure out how we can go to more of the rural areas and more of the underprivileged areas so that they can get services. But I guess this is one of the beginning stages. Like, we're understanding that people need mental health services. So I think it would really help a lot of people to go in and provide, and also reduce the stigma, right? I heard in what you had read, you had said that they were going to have more outreach services. They're going to tell people about what the need for mental health services. So it would definitely reduce the stigma. And when people see that I don't because I need mental health doesn't mean that I'm crazy. I just need somebody to help me. That would increase people's capacity to come out and say, hey, I'm struggling and I need help. So the more we have structures and mergers and clinics that people can come in, the less, hopefully we'll see reduction in suicide, reduction in substance use, and reduction in the stigma, right? People are able to come out and say that they need help. So this is a very great, welcome development, and I'm hoping that people would take advantage of this and utilize the services that are being provided.
Okay, you've mentioned something that has taken me to a question I should have asked you earlier on. Who are the people who really need mental health care? Because, when you talk about mental health, like you've rightly said, there's stigma and all that, because people usually think of, let's go to the market and see those people who are gleaning from the dustbin, from all these kinds of places. They stack, well, let me not use the word that may not be acceptable nowadays, but, we have a particular kind of people that we think should seek mental health care, and that may not be 100% true. So who are the people who need this mental health care, so that some people who fall into that category but do not know that they should access these things will know now?
All right, thank you for that's a fantastic question. And first of all, I want to say this, that mental health, everybody has mental health, but not everybody has mental illness. So I think there's a difference between that, and we need to understand that. Like, of course, our mental health evolves the way that we think, our behavior, our thinking, our mind, our emotions, right? So we all have mental health. Mental illness is when you have had symptoms such as maybe feeling depressed, sad, prolonged, right? When you've had an illness where it's prolonged, where you're feeling sad, depressed, anxious, when you're not your normal self, when your thinking is affected, negative thinking, which can be caused by several factors, right? For example, the stress is one of the factors that can lead to mental illness. For example, people have been under very prolonged stress, and it can be situational, it can be environmental. And so those are some of the symptoms. So symptoms include, for example, like I said, feeling, for some people, they might, let's start with diet. For some people, they might eat a lot, or some people might they might restrain from eating. For some people, it's isolation. They feel like they're isolating, they're not themselves, they're not socializing the way that they used to, or they're not interacting with people the way that they used to. For some people, it's constant worrying, anxiety, feeling like they're not themselves. Other people, they're oversleeping or not even sleeping at all. So because we are very individual, right? We're very diverse. Our symptoms look different for different people. But the fact that, one thing that you need to know is that mental health is, it's very important for us to take care of our mental health, because if we don't, it can cause mental illness. And so in order to reduce the stigma, we need to understand that not, people that we see on the street that have maybe delusion or undisheveled, those are most people that are like that are typically maybe have schizophrenia. But people that are going through mental illness, the people that are high functioning and they're going through mental illness, they are able to go to work, they're able to do everyday life, but they know that they're highly stressed. They know that there's maybe after they get back home, they're crying, they're not themselves, they're isolating, they're not eating right. Those are signs and symptoms. Those are things that those are signs and symptoms that need to be taken seriously, and then you need that. Those are steps that you should take. There are steps that you should take that you need somebody to talk to, and talking to a therapist that is trained, that is trauma informed, or that knows that is equipped, will give you the opportunity to address certain things that you might not be comfortable talking to other people. So please, there is a need for people to assess themselves and say, hey, how have I been feeling? How have I been feeling and I've been feeling out of myself, or not feeling out of place for past few days or a week. For depression, it has to be 14 days, 2 weeks for you to be feeling, for you to be diagnosed with clinical depression, and that, for you to come in and say, okay, I need help. But so it is very important for us to understand that people that we see on the street, not everybody, right? Everybody might look, a lot of people might look normal and look like they're not struggling, but that doesn't mean that they don't have any mental illness or even stress, and they need people to come and help them.
Okay, well, you're stressed, seek help. You are not feeling yourself, seek help and all that. Okay, but another thing following that is, let us know how much normal the people can be after therapy, for instance, because the hardest thing, as far as I'm concerned, is trying to prove to people that you do not have mental illness. The more you talk about it, the worse people think about you. Oh, this is because he has it. This is because. So reintegration into society and all that is a difficult thing. So how much progress can be made, and how normal can the person return to after seeking help at a mental facility?
Well, it depends on what exactly it is that is going on with the person, right? We have different ranges and different things, different diagnoses. And also it depends on how the person engages with treatment, right? So if the person consistent with treatment, is the person, is the person constantly, seeking help and following the treatment goals. So we try to personalize the goals of the person based on what they want to achieve, right? Person-centered. We ask them what they want to achieve, and then with the therapist, will sit down and say, okay, this is what are your goals, and then we try and draft a treatment plan based on what the person needs to achieve. So after that, the person, of course, we are hoping that after you've come in for several sessions and you've been able to receive the help that you need and you're using the tools required, you should, depending on what exactly the issue is, you should be able to feel better. Like I said, it's very, very individual, right? And sometimes some people need medication in order to to boost and to support them through their treatment. And so a lot of people are receiving therapy actually, and they see the benefit of it. They see, for some people, is maybe right away. They're able to just talk to someone and they're able to resolve and identify the challenges and resolve it. And for some people, they need that prolonged services, because the thing that they're dealing with they've been dealing with it for a long time. And so they need they need somebody that can help them for a longer time. So there's no one size fits all when it comes to treatment. The same way like a medical diagnosis, there's no one size fits all. Depending on how your body is different, your mind is different, everybody is very individual. So we have to tailor the treatment based on the goals of the person and what the person wants to achieve. So it's very, very individualistic and hard to kind of define. And that you're coming into treatment, have to know what your baseline was so that we can try as much as possible to get you to as normal as possible. So it's very individual. It's very individualistic.
These are for people who know themselves that they are facing one condition or the other and they need some therapy. What about the people who may be brought because they, like you said, they could have schizophrenia or some other things, and what is the rate of recovery for this kind of people?
Well, with schizophrenia, it depends because, like I said, with that, the other, and depending, like you said, you don't have to evolve and how or the tools is diagnosed. If you're taking the
people need
definitely the suggestion, and also